So we're going to get started here. Should have a good meeting here, and lots of information that can be shared. The way we're going to do this is we have people running for state, hi Greg, any place, state representative, and one that is a representative already, Mr. Green. We're going to let them talk first, and we'll go through those three people, if there's three here, maybe two or whoever shows up, or maybe it's just Phil. And he can talk, so he'll handle it. And then we also have Pete here, Sergeant Major from the VA, and he's going to tell us a little bit about millage. So that's how we're going to start out with the Michigan State Representative people that are running. And since it's the only one I have right now, I don't have to go 1, 2, 3. We're just going to have Phil to get a microphone and spend 5 minutes telling him about himself. And then we'll ask the questions from there. I have a couple I'm going to ask for the Tea Party, and then we'll open it up to the audience, okay? That's the way we'll run it. And then Pete will talk about the millage, all right? So with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Phil Green, please. Oh, after. I don't have my wife here either, so she ain't correcting me. So let's start with this, and I'm going to start with Carol. I've only known him for 20 years. Do the prayer for us, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Here's Carol.
Thank you. Would you stand with me, please? Father, you are the creator of everything in this universe. You spoke it into physical being. We were made in your image, and you know all things before they happen. Thank you for sparing President Donald Trump's life at the Pennsylvania rally and protecting him from harm, thus allowing America the opportunity to have him for our 47th president. He did so many good things for our country during his first term as president. We support him, pray for him, and ask you to help him to make America great again. Please prompt people that love America, want less government, free markets, and support biblical constitutional values to vote for Donald J. Trump to be our president again. We are thankful for the candidates running for 67th District House of Representatives that are with us tonight. Please bless them and their families. Our local Veterans Administration has been such a blessing to Lapeer County by increasing the number of veterans receiving the benefits they deserve. We are thankful for the leadership Mr. Kirley has brought to our county and ask blessings on him and his family. In the name of the Trinity, God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Oh, while you're still standing, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, but there's no flag out here. I've messed up again. Oh, on the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, now we can sit. Okay, with that, we're going to start out again. Do I have the other tape, Will, or the other microphone? I'm going to start out with our representative, Mr. Phil Green. Let's welcome Phil, please. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Phil, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm State Representative Phil Green. I live up in the booming metropolis outside of Fostoria. And if you don't know where that is, you're probably with the majority of people in the state of Michigan. I grew up in that just a little bit larger town called Mayville on a little farm outside of town. I grew up in the, I was born in 1977. My parents enrolled us at Juniata Christian School. And in the early 1980s, there was a huge court battle regarding churches' rights and allowing churches to have Christian schools, and what the state could have as standards and licensure. So the state wanted to license the church schools. They also wanted to ensure that all of the teachers were licensed that were teaching in the school, and then they wanted to make sure that you had the correct curriculum, their curriculum. And our group of churches felt that that was a complete infringement on the right of church. So on multiple levels, licensure of teachers, and then how do you get the licensure? Well, you have to go to a state school in order to become state certified, and so et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I remember as a probably 7, 8-year-old, there was a rally on the Capitol steps. Christian schools from all over the state were there, and the rally was for the freedom, the First Amendment rights and the freedom of religion. And at that point in the 1980s, my dad looked at it and said, if Christians aren't going to get involved in the government, who's going to? So at that point, late 1980s, my dad got involved in the county commission, then ran for state house, and then took 10 years off to start a business. Actually, what the deal was is he worked as a tool and die maker at the V8 engine plant. And he realized that all the money he was making at General Motors, he was losing on the farm. And so at that point, that's sort of when they transitioned to just getting rid of farming and became a hobby farm, which is what I grew up on. As I progressed through, I graduated high school, went to college, as my dad was in the state legislature, and my goal was ingrained in us that we were just going to serve. And so I went to college to be a youth pastor. While at college, I met my wife, who was sitting over here, maybe the first time some of you have met her. Her dad retired as a commander in the Navy, and she was from Virginia Beach area, and we met at college in Pensacola, Florida. And it was ingrained in her. We're just going to serve. Now, she went to school to be a nurse. I went to school to be a youth pastor. We married, moved to Wisconsin, moved to New York, then came back home. And so at that point in about let me think here, right around 2017, I had met with a couple legislators, and I talked with Dr. Canfield, who was the legislator up in the Thumb, and I said, when you're done, you know, I may be interested in running for your seat, even though I was still a school administrator at Juniata. And didn't know what that was going to lead to, and then all of a sudden, about 6 months later, I got a call saying, he's out, you want in. And my goal, as you can tell, I did not come up through the ranks, we'll say it that way. I didn't come up as a township trustee and then a county commissioner. My goal goes back to the 1980s. I want the government out of my life. I don't want the local government in my life. I want them all out of my life. Now, there is a proper role for government, and I'm all for that. But I'm not looking at you guys saying, I'm pro-local government, I want local government to overstep their bounds. No, I want government out of my life. So therefore, I was elected. When I was asked what committees do I want to serve on, I said I want to be on Appropriations Committee. Why? Because in the Appropriations Committee, you deal directly with the departments. I deal with Director Hertel at the DHHS. I deal with, I forget his new name, the new colonel now with the state police. I deal with the departments. My goal is to restrain the departments. Why didn't I want to get onto the policy? Because in the policy, you make more laws. I don't want more laws. I want the government out of my life. So therefore, that has been my overarching goal, to give a voice to those of us. I still consider Lapeer County the thumb. I know we're sort of the base of the thumb, but to give voice to those of us who just every day get up, we do our jobs, we don't really interact with the government, but we don't want the government in our lives. I want to represent those people in Lansing, not getting more government to intrude into our lives. So there's my 5-minute speech of introduction.
Okay, thank you. Give my hands, please. Since we only have 2 of them, at this point, let's go to the Veterans Administration head, Pete Kirley. Is that your last name?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Pete. Pete was a sergeant major in the Army, right?
Correct.
Okay. And he's been telling people what to do ever since then.
Except for
And-
my wife.
Yeah. And we're lucky to have him here, and Pete's going to talk a little bit about what he's done, what his career is, and then when we open up for questions, he's going to tell us about the millage for the VA. So let's welcome Pete, please.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to come out and address the Tea Party and give you an update on the Veterans Affairs Office. For those of you that don't know me, and I apologize for those of you that have heard the spiel 100 times before, my name is Pete Kirley. I'm a 33-year retired Army Sergeant Major. I'm a Persian Gulf, Iraq, and Afghanistan vet, and also, as previously stated, the current director for Lapeer County Veteran Services. So one of the reasons why I'm out talking to the townships and to groups like this and all the veterans organizations, if you don't know, if you haven't heard yet, our millage expired last December. The new millage will be on the primary next month in about 2 weeks. So we're about the 10-yard line right now. And the only thing that I want to portray when I come out and talk to you is that this millage is going to come up as a new millage, when in essence, it's not a new millage, it's just a continuation. So there's no increase in the millage. It's the same as it was in 2020 when we did the increase. The only thing different about this one coming up is it's a 6-year millage. It's from 24 to 29. That's it. That is it. But because the legal beagles got involved and says, I have to call it a new millage, it's going to come up as a new veterans millage, and it's not. It's not. So please don't look at it as a new millage. It's not. Okay? So just to give you a couple numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, and I'm going to save one for last. I don't do a lot of attaboys or accolades in a part of my French, because it's that proverbial all one doo-doo that just wipes everything away. So I don't do it. All right? I don't take credit for anything that happens in my office. I give it all to my staff because they're the ones that do the work. They're the greatest group of individuals I've had the pleasure to work with for almost 5 years now. So we have a fantastic drivers program. This program started out in 2015 with 7 individuals. We are now up to 24 individuals with 4 vehicles. And we just purchased our 4th vehicle here last January. This group of people from 2015 to 1 January of this year have amassed over 290,000 miles of taking your veterans to and from their appointments in Detroit, Saginaw, Ann Arbor, Flint, Pontiac, and Yale, and everything in between. And the best part about it, it doesn't cost them a dime. It's because of your tax money. You're paying this bill. I'm very open. I'm very transparent. If you ever have any questions about what goes on in my office, please stop in or give me a call. It's your money. I'm accountable to you as the taxpayers of this county. I don't have nothing to hide. So I got one more, and then I said the last one I was going to save for last. Again, this one is very important to me because it was just take a spitball and throw it at the wall and let's see what happens. And this was back in October, November of 2019. And that spitball was, yeah, you know what, we're going to get 1,000 new vets in this office. Never would have imagined it. So as of 1 July of this year, from September 9th of 2019, we just surpassed 1,041 new vets have come into my office. And it's all because of your taxpayers' dollars keeping us afloat to do the jobs that you hired us to do. And I personally, and I know along with my department, are grateful for that benefit. Because without you, we couldn't do the things that we need to do. And I'm not sure about the dollar amount. It's going to be right in the ballpark. We get our numbers from the federal government. It's called the GDX index. But in the last 5 years, we've gotten back, I think it's like $2.5 million to our veterans through educational benefits, housing, disability compensation. All that adds up to the dollar amounts that the federal government tracks, but it all comes back to this county. So that's it. That's
Good.
us in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you. Give him a hand, please. All right. Since you have the mic still, Pete, the Tea Party has a few questions they want to ask both of you. And so we'll ask you the question, and then when you get through with the answer, give it to Phil, and he can answer.
Okay.
Again, we only want to spend a couple minutes for each one of these questions. But the Tea Party's questions are quite simple. The first one is, Pete, to you, why did you decide to run for this office?
Well, it's not a run. It's a not an elected position. It's appointed. It's an appointed position. And two of the members that were on the Veterans Affairs Committee, which, let me plug, by the way, we have 2 openings that we're looking for veterans for. So if you're interested in being part of the Veterans Affairs Committee, come on in, fill an application. So I'd only been retired about 9 months. And my wife was like, hey, excuse my language again, my wife's like, dude, you gotta get the hell out of the house. I don't want to see you anymore. So it actually was a great opportunity. And I tell you what, I love coming to work every day. Absolutely love coming to work. Giving back to the veterans because they deserve it. You know, us as veterans, you know, we may not be entitled to everything, but we're entitled to something. And if that something is a simple handshake and a pat on the back and say, thank you for your service, welcome home, by God, that's what they're going to get.
Thank you, Pete. Phil?
So as I mentioned before, my goal in getting involved in government was to get the government out of our lives. And so therefore, I felt that as was ingrained in me, I needed to serve. So I served on the church level, I served at our Christian school. But then I started realizing the different things where the government was intruding into those areas. And I wanted to go in and put a stop, or at least put a little bit of resistance to it. And likewise, I also wanted to serve my community and be their voice. And so therefore, making sure that our tax dollars are used wisely and that we get the services that we pay for in the thumb. Many times it goes to other parts of the state and we just get forgotten. So number one, I wanted to be a voice of our people, to serve honorably, to serve our community, to be their voice. But then number two, I also wanted to make sure that when I use that phrase, serve honorably, I was frustrated looking at the federal government and even many in the state government in the way I felt their character and their actions dishonored their constituents, getting involved in scandals, getting involved in legal issues. And so therefore, my goal was to go in to serve honorably, keep the government out of our lives, and then to fight for the voice of the people that I served. Now it's really been in 2 different districts. With redistricting, I got to keep 2% of my old district. So I really have served in 2 different districts.
Okay, thank you. Next question, since you got the mic, Mr. Green. Please describe how your experience has prepared you for that office.
So I would be out knocking doors, and somebody would look at me and they would say, oh, you're getting out of church work and you're going into politics. And I would smile and I would simply say, where do you think there's more politics? in the church or in the Lansing? And I simply said this. I said, in the church, the main difference in the politics is in Lansing, most everybody wears jerseys. You know who's on your team and who's not on your team. When you're the pastor, you stand at the back of the auditorium, you shake their hands on their way out, and you know full well some of them are going to have roast pastor for dinner. And they're going to smile. They're going to say, oh, that's wonderful, that's great. So I say all that. How did the past experiences? Number one, a concept of learning and knowing where individual people were. In my church, I took individuals to Reformers Unanimous because of their addictions. I went and picked up the daughters of these Reformed addicts and took them back and forth to the different parents because of child custody issues. I helped these individuals with addictions. I worked with the children, the teenagers, and saw the different things that they needed. So thus, when I went to Lansing, as Mr. Gavette and I talked about, his first experience with my family was dealing with a juvenile justice center over in Vassar. Understanding the state's roles in foster care, adoption, and how that affects the kids and the mental health services, the mental health issues that they have growing up, has given me a vision of just how messed up our world is. Kids should never have to live in the situations that they are living in right now. And one of the faults of human nature is that we assume everybody is just like us. And when we make that assumption, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, and these are my positions, therefore, every Republican and every conservative must have these same, and when we make that assumption, we are going to miss a whole wide range of people. So my background of dealing with people most of the time is when they were at the bottom of their life emotionally. They were in the ditches of their life emotionally, and then trying to help them move through. So I'm able to empathize, able to listen to individuals, but on the flip side is, I have two brothers who own businesses. My dad owned a business. Actually, my wife and I own a business. We are homeowners, we're landowners, and so while I realize and I can empathize with those individuals that hurt, I also realize and can empathize with the individuals who are going, okay, wait, I got to pay for that now. And so having a well-rounded view of society as a whole has helped me as I've gone to Lansing to wade through the different junk that is thrown at you from different directions as they're trying to get you to come to their side. So it's helped me in that discernment.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. I know you weren't elected to that job, but what do you believe is the highest importance of your office, Pete?
My personal opinion, it's getting the veterans their benefits that they so rarely deserve. I mean, they all wore the uniform of this country. They all signed the dotted line just like every other veteran. It's important, and it's never too late. We just had a Korean vet come in who was 88 years old come in and get his benefits. Vietnam veterans, after 55 years of coming in and gotten their benefits. It's never too late. Come in and find out. You know, even if you have that nagging doubt, just come in and talk to us. It takes a half an hour, 45 minutes out of your time. You know, stop in. It's what you deserve. You know?
Okay, and there's a lot of people that don't realize just what your benefits are, or what benefits are available, so that's good.
Right, and it's another reason why I'm out talking to the public. It's not just about the millage. I'm a firm believer in word of mouth is the best form of advertisement, because guess what? We're talking face to face. I'm not talking on the radio. I'm not talking in an email. I'm not talking in a text. I'm talking face to face to you. I'd rather talk face to face to you than anything. You're hearing it right from the horse's mouth. You got questions? Let's talk. I'm all about it.
Okay, good. And now back to Phil. What are the main points you want voters to remember about you, Mr. Green?
I guess the couple of the main things I would hope that you would walk away with. Number one, my goal and desire is to be your voice. In a representative democracy, a democratic republic, however we want to say it, I am your voice in Lansing. And so when I want you to understand, when I go there, I carry my values. I carry who I am. But on another level is I also have to stop and listen to what my constituents are saying about different topics. There's certain things that we deal with that have nothing to do with my personal convictions on what Bible I use at church. When we're talking about how much money does a certain organization receive for taking care of children, that has nothing to do with a core conviction of mine. I'm coming to you, I'm listening to you saying, please, come to me and talk. So what I want you to understand is, I want to be your voice. I want to be your representative, not just of me, who I am. And then, I guess, number two, I would ask you just to stop and say, who is fighting for us? Who is looking out for where the tax dollars are going, how they're being spent, and how can we cut them? And that is my goal, not only to be your voice, but also to fight for you in Lansing, to stop, to put a anchor in, to put one of those floats that tries to slow the tide down, so that as we're going through the water, we give ourselves an opportunity to right the ship and to make the turn coming back to an America that you and I grew up in.
Okay. With that, I'm going to open it up to the floor. And we want you to answer all questions. What I'd like you to do is, when we call on you, and Myra's going to come around with the microphone, we'd like to have it on the microphone. That way it goes into it. You know, we have a video that we play on the web. And it's very good. Every one of our meetings is redone on the web. Like the microphone is something that we got to hear the question, you know what I mean? So state your name and then state who you want the question to go to. We have Phil and
Tom.
anyways, I just call them Tom. There's second page or something. Anyways, and so direct the question to whichever one you want. So go ahead, Jim.
Dan Sell, I got one for each of you. The first one is to our veterans representative. Something I've been using VA hospital for 5 years now. The last trip I made there for my hearing aids, I go for my hearing aids and I have to be part of the health care to get the hearing aids, so I have two different things. 5 years I've been going, nobody has told me I've been eligible to receive gas money for my trips. I love the idea of your service. I would not want to use it. I would prefer to drive. I'd like to see that money stay with you to people that need it. There might be a time that I can't drive myself and don't want to drive myself, that I would want to use your services. You need to tell, nobody in 5 years has told me I've been eligible to receive, goodness, that's what, 60, 70 miles from here, because I live over by Lum, so it's a little further than even Lapeer.
Right.
But I'd like to see something from VA going out to the citizens that they are eligible, especially if you have to go. Like my brother goes down to Detroit, okay, and I don't think he gets. I don't know if he's even. You have to tell them you want the form to fill. That should be something they offer you right off the bat. How far are you driving? Oh, 70 miles. Oh, here's the form. Now, I'm still waiting for my first check because it's typical of bureaucracy. It takes a while for it to get through. But anyway, I'd like to see you address that problem.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, we have a Facebook account that we resurrected about 1.5 years ago.
Don't like Facebook.
Well, I don't either, but it's the way of the world. Everybody's on some kind of social media. And you're absolutely correct. But you have to be over the 50 miles. And that's true. That there's something that needs to be put out. The VA's not going to tell you. No way. They're trying to save money, you know? So now, what they've done is you have to sign up online. The days of getting paid by like a cashier at the VA hospital are like next to none anymore. So you have to sign up for this online and sign into the VA program, which there's 6 different sign-in options. I'm like, why can't you simplify this? You know, I'm just speaking of Lapeer County. We have just a tad under 5,300 vets in this county. 64% of them vets are Vietnam and above. So you're talking mid-70s to almost 100. They're not going to get on the computer. They're not going to be able to navigate that system. That's what the VA wants. But no, you're correct. I will work on that. We will get something out, whether it's on Facebook or through my assistant's distro list. We'll get something out there.
Yeah, it was just a simple form to fill out, and every time I go, I just have to ask for it.
Yep, and we'll put the qualifications on there. We'll put everything out there. Yep, that's a good statement.
Now you, Phil. I got three things that are they all fit together: CRT, DEI, and the changes to Title IX. All of them, as far as I'm concerned, are illegal. I see nobody. I know you're a Democrat. I don't care.
No, I'm not.
You're not? I'm sorry. I apologize. I have seen nothing from anybody, whether it's you or the Democrats, that were in opposition to it. You hear a little bit of rumbling. You never see them do anything to try and remove. Do I assume that you do not support any one of those?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And you talked a little bit about social media, not being on social media. Many of us on the state level, a lot of our communication is done through social media. And then the question is what actual media picks it up, and then who listens to that actual media. So when we're dealing with critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then Title IX, we have done a tremendous amount of work. Mind you, my 6 years I've been in the minority, or I've been in the majority my first 4 years in the House, but we've had a Democrat governor. So the majority of what we have to do is through the budget. And the reason I say it's through the budget is because we are trying to restrain the government. So we are going to we tried to put restrictions on the Title IX funding. We tried to put restrictions on, and of course Title IX is a federal program, on the DEI stuff. Almost every committee I was in there for many times, specifically in DHHS, they're talking about equity, 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 health equity, health equity. And I would raise my hand and say, can you talk to me and juxtapose the word equity from the word equality? And they would stop and they would look at me. And they couldn't answer it, and now they have stopped using the word equity. So what has been happening is we have been putting in the critical race theory. That was a huge battle for 4 years when we were in the majority, specifically through the budget, and then as well through actual legislation. Governor never signed any of it in. Okay, through the budget, putting in restrictions that trying to ensure the Title IX funding, which is women equality in schools. So women's athletics is limited to biologically women versus biologically men. And again, that would go through our committee process. Then in the final negotiations with the governor, she would either line item veto it or it would be taken out. Now, what has been happening is we are seeing organizations pushing back on all three of these things. Most recently, it was the farm store right next to Walmart. TSC. TSC came out with a huge press release. We're done. We're done with the DEI stuff. Florida has come out and said, colleges, you're not allowed to deal with DEI. Not allowed to deal with any of this critical race theory, all this stuff. There's been societal pushback. Okay? So we are seeing many wins coming back through the economic process. We're seeing many wins coming back even through the court litigation. What I have been working on a national level, I work with an organization called ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and we've been pushing back specifically on, let me see here, on multiple, the DEIs, where they're being pushed through our economic processes. We are in a war right now. You stop, you say, okay, yeah, Ukraine, yep, Israel. No, we are in an economic war. And what I mean by that is the world, China, and the left is taking our principles of conservatism and turning it against us. And then we're having to stop and go, okay, what is going on? So we have financial institutions with the ESG movement saying, if you are not going to, if you're not going to agree with us in the environment, green energy, societal, right to life, guns, governance, okay? If you're not going to agree with us, we are going to defund you. So one of the huge financial backings, BlackRock, has made it their push that if you don't agree with them, they are going to defund you and make your stock worthless. So thus you have Ford, you have, what does Home Depot care about your LGBTQ experience? It's all being pushed through this ESG movement. So on a national level, I'm the chair of the committee, the Energy, Environment, Ag, that is dealing with this. Our next battle is agriculture. The same people that are pushing all of these, the ESG models, are looking at ways to destroy our agricultural society. And it's through an environmental justice model. So we have been fighting this on a state level through the budget. We've been fighting it even through legislation introduced. Obviously, trying to get our voices out, whether it's through social media, through press releases, through different models and different ways that we can talk. It has become very decentralized in our society. People don't watch Channel 5 anymore. I used to, 6 o'clock, everything stopped at our house, 6 o'clock. We were watching 6 o'clock news. So I'm sorry that you haven't seen the battles and fights that we have been waging and going after. But please, trust me when I say I have been fighting that battle. That is near and dear to my heart. I'm watching an America that I don't know, that I did not grow up in anymore. And I'm doing everything I can to slow it down, specifically in Michigan, slow it down so we can change the political tides and then begin to work on the bureaucracy of getting the racist mindsets out of our bureaucracy. And then specifically in education, we could go on for hours about education, but in that. So thank you.
Well, I'll give you a chance to take a breather, take a drink of water, Phil, before I come back to you. I just want to say, the VA here in Lapeer, I'm one of those new vets. I'm 76 years old. I was in during Vietnam. I wasn't aware that I could get any help. I was told I make too much money, so don't even apply. I went in there. Within a matter, Amanda helped me, got me right through the program. I said, I'm going to Florida. What am I going to do? She said, we'll follow you. We'll take care of it. And I got my 20% disability for hearing aids. I went to Florida. Within just 3 weeks, I had an appointment. A week later, I got my hearing aids. Boom, 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 just like that. Started out here. She sent everything down there, and they completed it down there. Now I'm back up here, and everything is moving smoothly here again. And I've already been down to the VA hospital in Ann Arbor. And I just want to give you a kudos for your staff. And I agree, noticing what I got when I got to Tampa, they had a package. And it was a package like I haven't seen before. I didn't get it here. But they had a package down there that give all that information like he was talking about, how to apply, how to go online, va.gov, and bang, 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 there's a form you could fill out and mail it in if you want to do it that way. Different avenues, but I can feel the pain there too. But just like me, and like you said, the VA, I mean, my age group, I'm not one to jump on a computer. I try to get on the va.gov. I get frustrated because log in here, log in there, and then, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I don't know which one I'm on. It's like 4 different ways to do it or more. Am I already signed on? I don't know.
Right.
But I just wanted to let you know I was one of those last October. Now, Mr. Green, I have been on a mission here in Lapeer County working with some groups. One of them is human trafficking. On a state level, I visited quite a bit in Florida. Human trafficking is a big issue down there. A lot of people aren't aware of how human trafficking is affecting our local area right here in Michigan. It is here, folks. Believe me, it is here. You don't even recognize it. We did have a seminar in here a few weeks ago over in Attica. We was hoping for more people that would show interest, but it didn't happen. But we're hoping that we're going to keep plugging along with that. And another thing, too, is books for children. In Florida, again, they're taking the lead. The governor there has already stepped out and said these sexually explicit books are not going to be in the schools or the libraries. Boom, just like that. You're not going to be teaching this stuff in school. And anyhow, in the back, I have some flyers, just informational. If you want to take them, read them. I wouldn't recommend them necessarily for children to look at, but there's some information on there that might scare your boots right off your shoes. Yeah, your boots right off your feet. But and this is only just a little bit. And we do have a new library director. I think she just got hired here in Lapeer. And how she's going to be, I don't know. I didn't like the reviews I seen on her. But we'll just leave it at that. They buy books from the American Library Association. The leader of that is very much pro all the things we were against that you were just referring to. So what is happening and what can happen on a state level to get the awareness out or get some laws placed to make this more aware?
Yeah, so I'm going to go, you brought up 2 topics, and I'll hit the first one first, the human trafficking. Obviously, through my committee, the Department of Health and Human Services budget, we do a tremendous amount of work in that human trafficking area. So, unbeknownst to the majority of us, okay, and I'm going to speak statistics for Tuscola County, where I live, but not, because I don't have the exact statistics for here in Lapeer. I've heard them, I just don't have them off the tip of my tongue. When we deal with human trafficking, majority of people stop and they say human trafficking is that white panel van that's parked in the Walmart parking lot and they're sitting there with some lollipops for kids. That is not human trafficking. Okay, yes, it is, right? There's a little bit of it. The majority of human trafficking is done by individuals who are known to the child. Grandpa, dad, uncle, mom's boyfriend, whatever it is. So when we deal with the human trafficking, we're dealing with individuals, children, who are walking around amongst us in our schools, at our church, that they have no idea, in many respects, that what grandpa has been doing to them is inappropriate. We deal with mom who is hooked on drugs, who needs to turn the next trick so that she can get drugs. We're dealing with it in our community. We have an organization, the Child Advocacy Center. The Child Advocacy Center here in Lapeer, I want to say in the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be having a ribbon cutting for their new building. When I went into the legislature in 2019, one of my first committee meetings, I was pulled off the rostrum and told that they were shutting down the Carroll Center's build, State Psychiatric Hospital in Carroll. Everybody in that community, and really across the state, rallied around the need for mental health care. The majority of us don't know about the Child Advocacy Center. Why? Because we don't want to admit that this stuff is happening in our community. In Tuscola County, 55,000 people, 8,000 kids in the school district. In the whole county, there's 8,000 kids in the school. They do over 300 individual forensic interviews on children that have been abused every year. Most of our community don't want to admit, they don't want to know that that type of stuff is happening. So why is it that we can rally around the Carroll Center, have hundreds of people at a rally, but then when it comes to the Child Advocacy Center, most of us don't even know it exists? Because it's not a topic that we want to admit that our neighbor is possibly having. So, thank you for your work. I would love to sit down afterwards, get the information. We can work together. About a year and a half ago, I did a rally over, not a rally, I did an informational meeting with Genesee County, the GHOST program there in Otisville at the Forest Township Hall, and I would love to sit down and see how we can work together on that. When we deal with the libraries, we are not, many of us look at it and we see the surface. We see, I'm not asking for books to be banned. I'm asking for books to be placed appropriately. Okay? And would I like to see do I think certain books are completely inappropriate? Absolutely. When it comes to our community library, the exact same time that Lapeer was going through their battle, Carroll, 20 miles to the north of us, was going through their battle at the exact same time. The two libraries are organized differently on their board, but they're 20 miles apart. And almost every library was going through the same thing. What appalled me more than anything, when I realized when you start digging, is the Michigan Library Association, part of the American Library Association. As Lapeer and Carroll were going through these battles, at the next annual meeting of the Michigan Library Association, they created and handed out their first ever First Amendment, I forget exactly what it's called, but it was basically the Defender of Free Speech Award, and they gave it to Carroll Library. We are dealing with, what happens is you have these organizations. They're not government organizations. The American Library Association, the Michigan Library Association, it's an association of libraries that work together for libraries, right? Well, individuals and ideologies figure out these associations, and they begin to infiltrate. So, as a politician, do you want me to, okay, not do you. It's almost political suicide to stand up and say, we hate our libraries, we hate our libraries, right? But what has happened is these organizations are being infiltrated to where now these organizations are praising and lifting up institutions and organizations in our community that are, in essence, pushing the human trafficking mindset down to the lowest levels. So therefore, how do we fight these battles? Number one, we need to know where the battle's at. Yes, we're going to fight it locally. And many of you have been fighting it locally, whether it's in Carroll or Lapeer or wherever. The bigger cities, they're not fighting it, okay? But we're fighting it locally. But the next question is how do we get involved? Well, we have to get involved and get on the library board. And then once we get on the library board, we dig a little bit deeper, right? And we find out that it's the Michigan Library Association. Well, how do we get conservatives on the Michigan Library Association? If that's where the battle is, I don't want to be like Don Quixote over there fighting windmills when the battle's over there. So we have to begin to be wise in figuring out where the battles are, and then also being wise and figuring out which battle you're going to fight. Because in the military, one soldier can't fight every battle. So you have to stop and say, okay, look, this is my passion. Human trafficking is my passion. I'm going to fight this battle. And I'm going to go to where the hottest coals are, but I got to work my way to get to those hottest coals. So on the state level, again, politically, politicians stand up, rant and rave. We get elected. We try to push things through legislatively. It's hard. Our government was designed to making changes very difficult. Okay? So it's hard legislatively, but then the next question is, once we make these changes legislatively, who is enforcing it? Is the bureaucracy enforcing it? Is it an association that's enforcing it? And then so therefore beginning to dig down and trying to figure out where those hottest coals are for the fight to get involved at that point. Both very good topics. Thank you.
My name's Tim Holland. I live in Lapeer, and my first question is for Mr. Kirley. Do you put out a physical newsletter that can go to households of current veterans in the area?
No, I do not. If you're a Lapeer County resident, you should have received like a 6.5 by 9 postcard several months ago. It was sent through EDDM in the post office. That was a very brief snapshot of what we do, and a very minimal of what we do in the office. No. So to answer your question, no, we do not have a newsletter.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. Have you considered doing like even just an email? I know that the majority of the veterans in the area are elderly and they don't use. Sorry. They don't use email and or Facebook or anything like that. And I'm just curious if there's a way for us to reach them locally without utilizing the internet.
Yeah, and that's why we resurrected the Facebook page as one of our means of trying to get the word out. Again, I think when one of the first comments I said was word of mouth. That's why I, as a director, am going around to the county and talking to all the townships, the cities, and veterans organizations, the Tea Party, Republican Party. You're the word of this county. You're the mouth of this county. We did a survey because before I came aboard as a director, they never kept any statistics, and I keep statistics on everything. Well, we did a very ad hoc survey about the first year and a half when I was there, and our conclusion was about 93% of the way people heard about us was word of mouth. So.
Okay, and another quick follow-up. Just to confirm, this is not a increase in taxes?
Negative.
Perfect.
Nope, negative.
Thank you. Representative Green, I got a couple for you. As one of 110 and in the minority, I understand that you can't control what's brought up on the committee or on the House floor. With that said, what do you view as the greatest accomplishment that you have in the legislature and your goals for 2025, 2026?
The legislature, as he mentioned, is 110 in the House. Just because you're in the majority does not mean you get to push your agenda. There's 110 individuals that if you tick enough people off, then stuff gets buried. And then likewise, so it is, yes, I have a job to do. I'm going to push this agenda. However, that agenda has to run on a parallel track, which is being able to make relationships, build relationships. And you do that by treating each and every individual, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, with respect. So 2019, the best, my largest accomplishment that I view, 2019 was when the governor shut down the new build at the Carroll Psychiatric Hospital. We were able to build a coalition, and this is going to blow your mind. We built a coalition with AFSCME, with the Carpenters Union, with the IBEW, with the MEA, and we all, as a conservative, we worked together, and we ended up defeating the governor, and she ended up acquiescing and building the Carroll Center back there. The clerk of the House at the time, Gary Randall, had been there for years, and he looked at me and he said, "Green, that was the steepest, slipperiest slope I've ever seen for a legislature. How did you win it?" I just smiled, and I said, "Well, I grew up in the Thumb, and we were taught you put your head down and you work." And a lot of that is being able to build those relationships. So that's 2019. Let's fast forward to this last year. Now we're in the minority, right? And so now what do we do? Probably one of my largest, it sounds crazy, but one of the largest deals that I look to say, yes, I accomplished something. There was a bill put out by a colleague of mine, Alabas Farhat, that would create a public safety fund. And it would be distributed based upon population and so on and so forth. There was a full formula. And I looked at Alabas, and it was to go to law enforcement. And I looked at Alabas and I said, "Look, this isn't going to work." Why? I said, because if you are in a county of less than, I think it was 100,000 people, or 75,000 people, all the money went to the local county sheriff. I said, you have Mayfield Township, you have Deerfield Township, you have all of these townships that put their own dollars, their own tax dollars, into providing public safety and law enforcement. I said, my take is, if a local unit of government puts their dollars for public safety, they should get part of this. So we went back and forth. I think it was 4 different drafts of the bill. Got it to where I was happy that I was fighting for my community, my local townships that were putting their dollars into law enforcement. It went from there. A couple other members of my caucus were actual sworn law enforcement. I think I went through 19 more drafts where we whittled it down to where basically it had to go to law enforcement. It couldn't go to, social workers with teddy bears sitting, in all these different little programs. So part of that, this last year, one of my largest that I sort of isn't something that I get to jump up and down and say, yes, this is what I accomplished, but it was working with the individuals on the other side to say, okay, look, here's how things work in real life and outside of Detroit. And we were able to make those changes. I'm not sure where that bill ended up, if the governor even ever signed it. I don't know. So to me, those relationships help us, even in the minority, to make the changes we need to make.
Okay, I got one more. As a conservative, which I know you are, what are you going to do to regain majority this year?
Okay. Yeah, so that's a great question. Obviously, number one, I have a primary August 5th, 6th. 6th, yeah, every day is just running together right now. November 5th and August 6th. So, number one, I have to return, right? So I have to win the November primary. And I'm spending dollars, real dollars right now on my own primary that I was hoping the money that I had raised I could give to my caucus. Okay, my caucus, we are down by 2 seats. We're in the minority by 2 seats. We believe that we, as a caucus, just the caucus, is going to need to spend $30 million to win back majority. So, every dollar counts. Not only am I working on my own campaign, you guys have seen signs, should have received mailers, digital, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also working on the Candidate Development Committee for HRCC, the House Republican Campaign Committee. I'm responsible for all of our candidates north of I-69, and specifically in 2 seats. Right now, specifically in 2 seats. One is the Marquette seat, and one is the Traverse City seat, that we are looking at. If we run good campaigns and are fully funded, we could flip those 2 seats and put us in the majority next year. So, not only am I working here, I'm at community events. I was at Kiwanis and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And representing here, doing the work around here, I'm also traveling around the state and working there. So what does that mean? I wish I didn't have to spend money here, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, I like driving around seeing my own signs. It's really cool. So I'm doing fundraisers. I'm raising money for myself. I'm raising money for our caucus, raising money for the party, so that not only does our caucus need 30 million, I don't know, probably Mike Rogers or whoever wins the U.S. Senate is probably, I don't know what the number is, probably going to spend 10 million on his own, there. So a lot of money goes into, you say, where does all this money go? Buying a 30-second TV ad in the Detroit market is very expensive. Buying a 30-second ad in the Flint market is not quite as expensive, but it's close. Buying a 30-second ad in Marquette is a lot cheaper. Okay, so it's mail, it's digital advertisements, it's, I have taken my staff member, she goes on vacation 3 days a week. I pay her out of money that I raised, because she's on vacation, and I send her over to Traverse City 3 days a week to help on a campaign over there. So those are the things that we're working on to make sure we take back majority and make sure that once we win majority, we're all on the same page and we're not as fractured as the Republicans in Congress are, where they're constantly beating each other up.
I appreciate that and your efforts to regain majority, and I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Jack Dempsey, and I think Mr. Green knows me. I've seen him before several times. But the biggest problem we have in Michigan is PFAS, the chemical. And a lot of people don't know it, but it's in everything. If you drink like tea, they took 18-year-olds, they was drinking green tea, and they're high in PFAS because they use it in the filters. They use it in all the coffee filters. They put it in your shoes. The black containers you get in the store, you load it with it, 5 days in your refrigerator it has it in there. You're allowed 1 part per trillion now. That's what's coming out. And it's very deadly. And it gives you thyroid trouble. The kids are born with no immune system. And they get high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and that. And then the males has testicle cancer and different things. And it's really into the thyroids. My friend had thyroid problems, went to AFib. I had thyroid problems, went to AFib. But the thing is, the thing is that we need to get out and put a deal out so that you know what you've got. Because when you go to the federal government, they can't get anything passed. Because lobbyists overrides it in the federal government. But we need a deal. When you buy a product, it wants to be in red letters on that product what's in it.
So I'll tell you what we're doing on the state level. We've done a tremendous amount, putting a tremendous amount of money into testing for PFAS. I am a water system operator, okay? So I'm licensed through the state. I'm responsible for a couple wells that, if you are a public building and not on public water, such as, Lapeer Water, let's say you're a church out in Rich Township, you have to be tested. And every school has to be tested for PFAS. I believe it's every 3 years. And so I've been going through that process with my wells. So we are testing very much so. We're putting it into the testing aspect of it. Some of the big stuff that we're dealing with, has been in products that have been newly, I say newly in the last 100 years invented. Dry cleaning material, stuff to dry clean, as well as firefighting foam. It used to be that you could, you had a fire, you went with water, sprayed it out, but now we have jet fuel. And so they use firefighting foam. So there's been a huge transition getting away from the PFAS. Now we are trying to look and find those contaminants, and then working with the EPA on the federal side, working many things. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Pete, because I know, and I'm not sure what he knows. I'm not just for what it's worth. He may not know anything. But I know the military has been working a lot on this as part of the VA and some of the stuff that veterans are dealing with.
Yep.
Do you know anything?
Yep. Could I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Just one here. Now, I'm dealing with Dr. Tanya in there, and I used to drill, and I did fix the wells in Bad Axe in there. And Dr. Tanya was worried about Camp Grayling and the wells in Lake Margarita where the basketball size is foaming.
Yep.
But the problem is the women are having kids, and they're breastfeeding their kids, okay?
Yep.
So these kids are all contaminated from the PFAS in the mother. It brings it up into kids. Now, the state just did more testing than any state in the United States.
Yep.
That's why we're so loaded with it. Everybody in this room has it.
Yep.
I'll guarantee you. So why aren't we testing these women that get pregnant, what their levels are, so they don't breastfeed their kids and contaminate them?
So obviously we're working on multiple levels, right? We're working with the EPA because we already put a tremendous amount of money, state taxpayer money, federal money into some of the testing. And the question comes is, how much more do you want to test, right? I would say this, pay attention as well. You know, you're talking PFAS. There are some states, and I'm working on it, introducing a bill that says, you know, you've probably seen the advertisement, don't flush your pills. Where do you think, if you flush opioids down your toilet because you got done, where do you think those opioids go? Well, they go to the water treatment plant, right? Well, guess what? The water treatment doesn't test for what opioids are in the water. There's a drug, a hormone, mifepristone, that is used for abortions. Where do you think the residuals from that go? I just went to the doctor today. I got tested. Well, I didn't get tested for drugs, but I had to pee in the cup, right? And isn't that how you get tested for drugs? Okay, where do you think the rest of that cup went? Into our septic system. And so the question now becomes not only PFAS, but also, what about opioids? What about antibiotics? What about hormones that are all getting into our water supply? And I understand that maybe the environment and water supply isn't really Republican issues, but I think it probably should become some Republican issues that we need to make sure we take care in our conservative in our conservation as well. So I agree with you. There's a lot of things that are happening that we need to really pause and stop and think and reflect on. And the question just becomes is, you know, we can test, but we have to have partners to work with it.
Okay, one more question.
Oh, no. The lady asked for you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's my wife. I'm not answering this question.
Maren Green, Representative Green's wife. It is for Mr. Kirley. My dad, I would love for my dad to have VA benefits, and we started the process and he was denied. He lives in Virginia. And my question is, are there different benefits available based on your county and your state?
No, no, I mean, there is very minimal. One of the biggest differences probably that deals with the county and the state is a burial allowance. State statute says that we have to, if they qualify, because everything in the federal system has a monetary threshold to it. If they're above that threshold, they're not entitled to it. If they're below it, then the state says that we have to give them a minimum of $300. As far as federal benefits, no. Federal benefits are the same across every state in the nation. No, what I was trying to think, sorry. But no, I mean, if he was denied, he can always come back. I mean, it's based on a monetary and an age thing. So if he's over that age threshold now, that he can reapply, and there's benefits for, you know, if you're 64 and you go in and you apply for them and you're denied and you just turned 65, well, now they might be eligible.
got a good bill of health when they looked at his medical records, but they said that he doesn't. We've got lots of health issues now, and probably related to other health issues that came, but I'm gonna have to do some fancy writing.
I'll connect you two, and you can ask questions offline.
Yeah, no, by all means. I mean, it all depends. I mean, he can come back and reapply, you know. We'd have to just look and see, you know, because whenever you file paperwork with the VA, they're going to send you back correspondence saying why they denied it, okay? Especially as far as compensation for injuries or illnesses occurred while you're on active duty. You know, my son is going through this right now. And I'm like, you know, they're 98.5% of the time, they're going to deny you the first time. That's just the way the federal government works. I said, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Bad because they deny you. Good because now the VA has told you why they deny it, why they denied it. Well, you can appeal it and say, well, wait a second. I've got all this information that you say I need to have, so I'm going to appeal it. And a better percentage is they're gonna approve it the second time around. So, if you need any help, please, you know, give our office a call. We'll sit down with you and take a look at your father's file again.
Oh, thank you. My question is for Mr. Kirley. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's my understanding that all veterans are allowed to be buried in this area at Great Lakes. Is that true?
That is negative.
So can you tell me what the qualifications would be?
It's about 8:30. We'd be here until about midnight if I could tell you that. No, and it's not. I'm just joking. No, you can go on to the Great Lakes website, and they'll give you all the criteria. And in the last 4 years, we did 5 or 6 tours out to Great Lakes National. I usually try to do that tour twice a year. And I learn something new every time I go out there. But as unfortunate it is for me to say that veterans are not all veterans are not entitled to benefits. And it pains me to even say that. I had a gentleman that came in today. He was strictly National Guard. Their benefits are very minimal.
Okay.
Very minimal. And it's wrong. Because, as I told him, the uniform doesn't say National Guard. It says United States Army. They should be entitled to all those benefits entitlements just like the regular Army does.
How many from Lapeer County have been buried in the last year at Great Lakes? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I could find out for you, though.
Okay. Well, there is a reason that I'm asking twofold, so that the people here know that a lot of times you have veterans who are buried there, but there's no family or friends, no one's there, and then they bury them. I think they're cremated, but they bury them like once a year all at the same time, and there's no one there for that service.
Right.
So Daughters of the American Revolution make it a point that they send the ladies there, but anyone could go and honor one of the veterans who has no family or no one that cares.
Most definitely.
So I just wanted to make that known. And then the other thing would be we have so many grave sites in the Lapeer City Cemetery that they use for that purposes, that no one claims the body. So
Right.
Just so people would know that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, those are good questions. Bill has the last question.
And then,
I'll
Tim,
get it to him. Yeah.
did you want to recognize the other candidates that are here tonight for different offices?
Yeah, that's coming.
Okay.
You've been talking to my wife or something, trying to run this.
Well, first off, Phil, thanks for being here. Sorry, but when they don't show, they don't show. And it's clearly noted. Everybody was invited. They could have showed. You don't show up. Showing up is half the battle, at least here. And that says a lot to me about how much really they want to be here. So and maybe there are circumstances, but I'm not aware of any. But thank you for showing up. So the first one is for Phil, is for you. And it's just basically, we've got a situation. Is there any way, other than electing Republicans and recapturing the majority, we can do anything? Because the governor has taken away, and our Secretary of State, they've taken away our ability to even locally check our ballots. Yeah. If people don't know about that, can you explain what's been done on that regard?
Yeah,
just a quick.
So a quick synopsis. They have been the Democrat majority, Democrat trifecta, has been changing a lot of our election laws. The one that he's referring to has said that they have removed the ability of the local board of canvassers to investigate if there's been fraud. So what happened some of the other elections was, look, I have a question. The board of canvassers say, I have a question on this. Are these numbers correct? Is there fraud here? And the local board of canvassers would stop and say, we're not moving forward until these questions are answered. The legislature and the governor, Secretary of State, through the legislative process, has removed that right of the local board of canvassers to investigate potential fraud. They have moved it over to the Attorney General's office. So let's say we're sitting here in Mayfield Township. Let's say somebody here in Mayfield Township, which I don't believe would ever happen, don't believe, but let's just say there's an accusation of voter fraud in Mayfield Township. The Board of Canvassers in Mayfield Township, the Board of Canvassers in Lapeer County, and the Board of Canvassers in the state of Michigan no longer have the right to investigate that. Mayfield Township, it would go right straight to the Attorney General. So what is happening? Okay, legislatively, yeah, we put up a fight. We brought up all these issues. We offered amendments, but this is what's going to happen, and the trifecta went that way. So what is happening? Now, outside groups that are concerned with how elections are run on both sides, Republicans or conservative and liberal sides, are now filing lawsuits to say, okay, so you have the legislative branch that legislates, you have the executive branch that executes, and then you have the judicial branch that judges whether those laws are constitutional. So the next part of our three branches of government kicks in, where we have to go to the courts for the courts to rule whether it's constitutional or not. So that is, in my opinion, that is the next step. My brain is hurting right now. I don't recall the name of the organization, but I know there are lawsuits that are being readied to look at the constitutionality of many of these laws that are being passed.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Kirley, for this millage, if it doesn't pass, because quite frankly, it should have not gone over. It should have been renewed, not gone over and been done. And so you've got thousands of people that are even looking at the ballot that are going to say new millage. So if this doesn't pass, two things. What, do you have a backup plan, or is there a backup plan? Can it be put back on the ballot maybe in November or maybe in a different time too? And the other thing is, I understand that you're a people kind of person, and I've had this conversation with you the last 3 or 4 times you've been here. Whether you like email and electronic and stuff, I don't really care. You have to do it. I run my own business. I have customers can get a hold of me. I'm one guy. I have people can get a hold of me, text me, phone me, email me, message me. I have 15 ways for people to get a hold of me. You are representing thousands of veterans that need assistance. So I could only implore you, if you don't know, that's okay. There's others, maybe hire some staff, get maybe some volunteers could help. Newsletters. They absolutely do an electronic newsletters work wonderful. I've got a disabled sister. I work with her. She lives on her own. I go over once a month. We pay all her bills. Any important emails get forwarded to me. she doesn't know how to take care of this stuff. I do. I help her out. All these veterans, maybe not every single one, but the bulk of them have families that could help out and do this kind of stuff. So I would just implore you to get, because you know, whatever people you reach tonight, and this video will go out, and so a lot of other people will hear that there's a need out there. But you really need to get a bigger footprint out there. It's just the world that we're in. So if this doesn't go, if it doesn't pass, what would be next?
Well, I had proposed that to the 2 county administrators in the last 5 years. And their answers was, we don't know. And I said, well, that's not the right answer. Because it's not the right answer. So in my talkings with other people, the progression is if it doesn't pass in the August primary, then it gets put on the general election, okay? And if it doesn't pass there, then they have a special election next February. And I said, okay, so now your constituents have voted it down twice, and now you're going to shove it down their throat in a special election, or a special election. That doesn't seem right to me, because now you're pushing it on something they don't want. That's not right to me. That's just my personal opinion. And not switching subject, but I agree with you. Just because I said I don't like email doesn't mean I don't do it. All right? I do it.
Well, I've never seen anything, and I've looked, and I've had conversations with other people, because you guys do some great stuff, and it's really important, and it's one of those things that, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to misjudge, but sometimes, I've lived up here for 30-some years, and parts of this county still are maybe only in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it just, there's certain things we need to kind of pick up just a little bit, and and I only say that because it's the people that have, I wasn't in the service, but by God, I've never turned down a millage. I've never, especially for the veterans, they are the absolute most people. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So we owe them everything. So whatever it takes, we should leave no stone unturned. So I don't mean to beat you up.
Oh, no, and I agree. And I tell everybody is that that's why I go out to the townships and the cities and their board meetings and the veterans organizations and the Tea Party and the Republican Party, is because of that reason. That's probably the single hardest part of my job, is getting the information out to Clifford, to Otter Lake, to Silverwood, to Columbiaville. That's why I go out and do it. I don't get paid for this. I do it because I want to, because they deserve for me to go out there and tell them about their benefits. That's why I do it. But yes, I will take that and I will run with it, and we will work on getting some out to the public.
Let me just say, I can make sure I'll get you my information. Anything that you want to send us, we send out regular newsletters. We're happy that we can put a link to wherever. If you've got a place where you can put information, we're happy to forward that out, and they can.
We appreciate that.
In bookending, first question to last question, right? One of the topics that both Pete and I struggle with is communication. You think it would be a whole lot easier in this world, right? You have 1,000 different ways to communicate, but the question is sometimes you're just speaking out into the world. I know my office puts out, I think I have like a 30,000 email list. My office puts out a monthly email update if you don't get it. But again, if you don't do email, okay, so then we do social media. Well, if you don't do social media, then we do press releases, and then it's up to, the local press to pick it up. And so there's thousands of ways to communicate. Could we send a letter to every house? Yes, we could, and I think the general rule of thumb is it's with stamps now at 73 cents a stamp, going up to 79. I think you figure it's $2 for every letter you send out, envelope, and then so one of the things we all struggle with is communicating, and the many different models of communicating, and that's why both Pete and I are out here I'm not here at every meeting. I try to be here as many meetings as possible, but I try to be at the Kiwanis and at the Rotary and at Optimist Club, and that's just Lapeer County, and then the different government meetings, and then you add in Genesee County. But please know, if you have any questions, if you want to grill me over something, you can call my office. My office will set up a time where we can meet down at Tim Hortons, and we can have a meeting, or we can meet wherever. We do our best to be as accessible as possible, understanding that communication is the key, but it's also, you feel like you're beating your head against a brick wall.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Lots of good questions. We're going to do one more set here with Pete. And the question is, this new VA millage that's going to be on the docket that's coming up. Pete, we need to understand it a little better. One of the things you've made a statement of is this is not a new millage, it's a renewal, okay? And so with that in mind, explain to us what this millage is and what the difference is and why we should approve it or not approve it, okay? Go ahead.
Okay, so the millage in 2020, when I did the increase, was about 8 sentences. Well, the new one you're going to see if you go out to vote in the August primary is about 16 sentences. My personal opinion, I'm not docking anybody, but my personal opinion, because I'm a registered voter in Genesee County, that's where I live, the average voter is not going to read that entire millage. They're going to read what the rate is and how many years it's for and what's it going to produce. Well, and you kind of put me back me in the corner, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Only reason why it's a bad thing is because I didn't want to bring this up because I don't want to confuse the voter, okay? And with that being said is the very last 2 sentences on this millage, it's going to state that the Lapeer DDA and the Imlay City DDA are going to capture part of this millage, which is their right by state law. I don't think it's right. To me, I believe it's fraudulent. If you, as the taxpayer of this county, are voting for a specific millage and you have an entity out there that says, well, guess what? We're going to take some of your millage or part of that money and use it for something else, that's fraudulent. That's my opinion. But those are the very last 2 lines of this millage. It's going to state who's capturing it, and they don't have to tell us why. State law. So this man and the other 2 representatives, Jamie and Craig and Senator Daley, when you guys went back to House and the Senate and the governorship, we're going to have conversation. We're going to have long conversation because I'm going to get back on my soapbox, and that is going to be one of the things that, because it's wrong. It's very wrong. And again, not knocking the voter, but a lot of the voters don't know that. Don't know that the TDA or the DDAs and the TIFAs have a right to take part of that money.
Okay. Now, I understand, though, we had the gentleman from the Emergency Services, Russ, from 9 Russ, and it was my understanding that for those agents, for that millage, they're not taking. So they can choose not to. They just would rather have veterans' money.
Bill, there's a few taken on that one, too. There's at least 2. Okay. It's interesting how it's different ones at different times.
Right. Now, and again, I'm not, again, don't get me wrong, this is just me portraying my, I attended the last DDA, Lapeer DDA meeting several weeks ago, and there was mention of capturing this millage back in 2020 with the executive director, Jim Alton. I'm not naming people out, I'm just putting it out there. There was talk that he was going to capture it. It didn't happen. Well, the DDA board, Lapeer DDA board, right after that, got together and said, you know what? Instead of picking and choosing, now this is by their own word of mouth, the 5 of them said, we're not going to pick and choose which millages we're going to capture. We're just going to capture all of them.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any other questions for Sergeant Major or for Pete?
Yep. Vote yes on August 6th for the senior millage. And I'm going to say one more thing. God bless America.
Amen. Okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, I don't see anybody's hand. So let's continue with the meeting. And what I'd like to do at this time is take a few minutes and have everybody that's running for an office or has an announcement to make, just take a couple minutes, let me know who you are, what you're running for, and a little bit about you, okay? Start with, first one, raise their hand. Oh, okay, wait. Oh, yeah, well, that's a good idea. Let's go down the rows. Bill, Mr. Hamilton. Tell them who you are, what you're running for, Bill.
I'm William Hamilton. I'm the current County Commissioner for District 6. District 6 is Metamora, Lapeer Township, and the western side of Attica. I ask for your vote on August 6th to re-elect me. And I'd also like to say that my opponent, Greg Wise, has put out a mailer claiming that I'm against first responders, and I want to put out the statement that I'm not against first responders in the least bit. I have voted to fulfill the promises of the law enforcement millage. I voted for equipment and training for the police and our other first responders. So when you get a mailer, you may get it this week, claiming that I'm against first responders. That's categorically false. It was put out by a dark money pack out of Royal Oak in Oakland County, and I urge you to not let outside influences influence who runs in Lapeer County. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Hamilton. I am on the ballot as for one of the two spots for Lapeer Township trustee. I thought it was kind of interesting that up until I'd say maybe a month or two before I decided to put my name on the ballot, I didn't even know who my trustees were. So I think that's a big problem with our local government right now, is being able to contact them. So I encourage you, if you are in Lapeer Township, I would love to have your vote support. I do have flyers, if you would like one, that has contact information if you needed to get in touch with me for any reason. And thank you very much.
Okay, anybody live in Elba Township? Okay, well, that leaves one or two people here. That's good. My name is Tim Lentz, and I'm running again for trustee for Elba Township. I've been on that board for about 6, 7, 8 years now. And if you come to our meetings, you'll see that the one that's fighting for you and your rights is me. Okay. And I'd appreciate your vote again. Again, that's Elba Township trustee Tim Lentz. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Megan Lang. I am the Chief Deputy Register of Deeds for Lapeer County. I am running for the Register of Deeds position coming on August 6th. I began my career at the Register of Deeds 5 years ago, and in 2021 I was appointed to be the Chief Deputy Register. I'm very comfortable serving the community. I have found it a great privilege, and I truly enjoy my work and day-to-day basis in the office. I am doing a meet and greet and tour of the historic courthouse on July 21st between 1:30 and 4:30 if anybody's interested in coming. And again, I thank you guys so much for the honor of getting to serve for the county for the last 5 years.
I'm Dave Clayfer. I'm not running for anything. Is it time to go to Florida yet? No, not yet. Well, I do this in Florida, I do it here, I get involved. You heard me talk about the trafficking, it's a big issue. The library is a big issue. We got 2 conservatives on the board right now. We're hoping to get some more on there this year. Lapeer Township, I believe, is one, the Board of Commissioners. But the books that are in there, like somebody said, I don't remember who said it, but anyhow, they need to be in the appropriate place, not down there. And I personally witnessed it myself. I went to a meeting in the little room down there, and here's a book in the children's section where they do the children's time. And I just looked at the title and I said, How to Enjoy Sex. Now, why is that in the children's section? It shouldn't be there. And when I brought it to the library board, they just listen, they don't respond. But we need to be proactive and let the library know that we are listing 90% of their monies comes from millage. They answer to us. That new director they've got coming in, I don't know anything about her. I've heard some rumors. We'll just let it see how it goes. But come to the meetings. There's flyers back here. Tell us when the meetings are, where they're at. Get on their website. You can listen to their meetings. They're taped also. And be proactive for our children. We need to save our children in more ways than one. Thank you.
I'm Joe Suma, Lapeer County Drain Commissioner. I serve the whole county. I also work with every county around Lapeer for inter-county drains. We as inter-county boards have worked on almost every drain we have that interacts with Lapeer County. I've been doing the job for almost 12 years now. Started day one on a petition project, and I've been working with all the different areas since then, every day, going out and trying to help the drainage system of Lapeer County. I'd like to serve another 4 years. I need your votes in order to do that. So anyone deciding to sit home, please get out, vote the Republican Party, and give me a vote. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Gualdoni, and I live in Elba Township, and I'm running for the Elba Township Clerk position. Thank you, Tim. And I spent 40 years basically as a computer programmer. The last 10 years of my career, I've worked in Medicare system, which is basically the government systems. And I retired from my career in December, and I want to give back to my community. And I think I want to take my computer skills to the clerk's office there in Elba Township. I was actually asked by the Republican Party here in Lapeer to replace the clerk. And I guess my main focus for going back to help out the clerk's office is election integrity, as everybody in this room probably has a concern with the elections. And it starts with the clerks. And so I really want to make an impact on the election integrity. And that pretty much sums it up. My wife and I are also Precinct 3 delegates, candidates. I think, Tim, are you on the candidate for Precinct 3 as well? I usually stick with my wife. Okay, all right. So, but yeah. And I learned tonight that Representative Green and I used to go to the same church. I was water baptized in Juniata Baptist Church in 1972. That was before I discovered America.
Taking on, it's a big job. Okay. And you got more friends than you think. Anybody else have any comments or anything? Not about me, but about anything else we've covered.